Okay, so I see that there have been some responses. You're welcome to continue filling out the form, but perhaps I should just show you what the results look like so far. Okay, so the first question was about staying focused. Lots of people seem to be somewhat overwhelmed. Falling asleep could be an issue for some. Getting the right amount of sleep or your diet for some seem to be implicated. Body aches and pains are coming up. A hard time staying focused. Isolation from yourself or isolating yourself from your friends and families. Do you feel irritable, angry over trivial issues? So there is a an obvious indication that majority of people on this session are actually experiencing some form of stress. And I just wanted to get a little sense of what the viewers or the viewership feels. And that's just going to help me with the rest of the presentation. So let's look at what stress is. So stress, what I've done here is looked at the physiological system or the biology of what happens when we become stressed and how we respond to that stress. Now, when it comes to stress, there are two types of stress. Initially, that the point behind us having or going into a stress mode or a stressed state back when we were primal and we were living to survive, we would face a threat, and that threat would stimulate the stress response system. And the stress response system is there to help the body respond to the threat successfully. Some of you might have heard the fight or flight technique. So either when you're faced with a threat, you freeze up, or you actually get a move on with things, which is what the flight part entails. Now, within our bodies, things happen to get us out of that threatening situation or to get us to face that threatening situation successfully. So your heart beats really fast. The idea is that it pumps blood at a faster rate, and it pumps blood to your vital organs, including your digestive system, your brain, your hypothalamus, your lungs for breathing. And you'll notice that when you're in a stressful situation, you would feel very, your heart would beat very fast and you'd start breathing quite heavily, or you have a shortness of breath. And that's all to sustain your body and in this fight or flight response. But what happens is when we experience prolonged stress, we tend to be in the state of stress where we are telling our bodies that we are faced with a threat. And so the biological responses, instead of just happening for a short period of time, which is what it was designed for, we then prolong it over an extended period of time. So we won't just get those heart palpitations for 5 to 10 minutes to help us get out of the stressful, threatening situation that our bodies perceive it to be. Rather, we'd experience constant palpitations, which could end up in other cardiovascular diseases. In terms of the brain, you could experience mental health issues. In terms of digestion, you would experience a lot of digestive issues, and everything is interconnected. So your gut, your brain all works together. And when it's in a stressed situation or when it's undergoing any type of stress, it's not functioning the way it's meant to function. Your body can only respond to that type of stress and use the stress response system for a very short period of time. So that's why in the questionnaire, and we'll see further on in the presentation, that there are various types of signs of stress. So if you feel anxious, if you feel sad, if you're in a depressed state, if you feel angry, or if you get agitated very quickly, if you feel irritable, these are all signs that your body, your mind, your spirit have been in a prolonged sense of stress. Bodily reactions, like I explained, indigestion, digestive problems, aches, pain, sweating, headaches. This is quite common as well. behavioral actions. So this is after we've been in that state of stress for a long time, and we might have gone through some of the feelings and depression, anxiety, which is where we tend to self isolate and want to be on our own a lot more. We are very fearful. We are very overwhelmed. We experience a lot of the daily tasks we tend to lack focus on. We can't function properly, and in that sense it becomes quite difficult for us to move on and to process things. So I'd like you to now reflect on what causes you to feel stress, and just post it in the chat so we can engage on that. What causes you to feel stressed? Okay, I see Andre said conflict with others, competition at work. Is there anyone perhaps that is studying or have kids that are now approaching exams, deadlines? Yes, I think deadlines even for students, we are dealing with that now, especially at university because it's exam period. Meeting those deadlines are an issue. Loss of finances, I agree, especially after COVID and with everything going up, that is definitely a big stress. Um, in terms of academics, there's too much to study and not enough time. I understand that too. I think even the shift from online teaching back into sort of normal face to face teaching is what a lot of kids are struggling with. And the type of content that they're expected to learn in an offline environment is different to an online environment. So academically, work wise, there are big stresses out there. Um, so the causes of stress. I found this quote and I thought it was so apt, because I've been undergoing stress myself and wondering what exactly is it that I just I can't deal with, I can't cope. I keep saying I'm stressed out. What is it? What is preventing me from not feeling this way? And in essence, it's a need to control. When you are undergoing the stresses that we are currently speaking about, not that sort of survival threat that we spoke about earlier, but finances, competition at work, academic studies, all of those things. Stress is caused by being where you are, but wanting to be somewhere else. So we have these goals that we set. We have these ideas and these aspirations that are driving us constantly, but perhaps not driving us in the right way. It's not really used as motivation, but we use it as a form of attaining something at our by sacrificing something within us. So if I am striving to do really well at work, I'm content with what I have. That's great. But I'm wanting to be somewhere else and not looking at where I currently am and accepting that this is all I can do at this point in time. And so we take on a lot of pressure in different environments: work, home, family, um, study wise, by wanting to achieve something and putting that pressure on us to achieve that, but not actually realizing that we haven't attained that yet. We are working towards attaining it, but the stress that we experience in order to get there is taking a toll on us. I see someone says grief as well. Definitely, I agree. And with grief, it's difficult, because there's no such thing as really getting over that grief or working to um, succumb or move past that grief. You can only move forward, but it will always sit with you. And we have to learn ways in which to cope with this stress. And I think when you are in the habit of creating stressful thoughts, it does become difficult to think otherwise. And so the presentation today is not about overcoming stress, it's about dealing and coping and managing. Because in all instances, as long as we are striving to be somewhere else, we will constantly experience that stress. So if I go back, in terms of academic related stress. So I focus the presentation a lot on academics, but I mean the tips for managing stress is something that everyone can implement based on what they've shared in the presentation. So we've spoken about stresses in general, and perhaps I can share because I'm a student, and if anyone wants to come in here, you're welcome to. So when it comes to anything study-wise, exams, tests, if you are even on a training course at work or doing some type of workshop, there are certain stresses involved. And in some instances, it could be a good form of stress where adrenaline kicks in and pushes you in a way that actually motivates you to get something done. So that's why you find that some people work better under pressure and other people not so much. So those that work better under pressure probably feel this drive and motivation from that adrenaline response that is kicking in. Whereas those that feel that the pressure is too much, they're approaching deadlines and it becomes way too much for them, have a different way of dealing with it. So when it comes to work or even studies, there are two things happening and two ways that stress can help us. Using both the cognitive and the biological aspects of stress and combining them, we can be able to get things done. Sometimes, I'm not sure if anyone can relate, but you are very much procrastinating something, and procrastination is something I'm going to speak about in the next slide. But it becomes like days before or hours before you have to submit or before you have to write the exam or before you have a deadline to meet, and something happens in you, a switch happens where you just get the spark of energy and you sit and you write or you study or you make your notes or you complete the project. And that is the stress that drives us to get something done, which is great. But coupled with that, we can use the stress to motivate us, yes. But if we are in that prolonged sense of stress, and if we are working towards being there as opposed to being here, we tend to not see or not allow ourselves to experience what's happening in the present moment. And by constantly trying to get to that finish line, there's a lot of things that we are putting our bodies through. And sometimes even when we get to that finish line, we realize that, it's actually not that great. I put myself under so much pressure and I'm not actually reaping the benefits. And that's because you've strived so much to get to the destination that you have forgotten the journey in between. And it does become difficult when you are placed in a situation where you are constantly feeling the stress to look at it in that perspective and in that light. But that's where self awareness comes in, and it's something I'm going to discuss in the spirituality aspect. So sometimes we push ourselves so much, and especially when it comes to a test exam, if you're writing a thesis or doing some type of project, where you put in all the work and you get to the end and you didn't get the results that you anticipated. And that causes anxiety for you in the next upcoming deadline or upcoming test that you have to take. So cognitively and biologically, things are happening within your body that cause triggers for you so that when you have to do this activity again, your brain doesn't cooperate with you. So I'm going to show you a few tips later on, but I think one of the main causes of these triggers is procrastination. Um, Procrastination is the fear of starting something or attempting a task. And that fear is not necessarily based on you not wanting to do it because you are lazy. I think that's a big misconception about procrastination, that procrastinators are lazy. In actual fact, procrastination happens when you are feeling completely overwhelmed by the task, or you have been overthinking the task too much. And so you are not adamant to begin it. There's so many thoughts going through your head. You're feeling very overwhelmed and you just cannot get yourself to start. And that's why we find in academic institutions, particularly students cram or they sit 1 or 2 days before the test and they are staying up all night and trying to get all this knowledge in. But that is not the right way to go about it. What happens when we procrastinate is we prevent ourselves from engaging in the task. Then we feel guilty for not engaging in that task. Then we panic because we feel guilty and because the deadlines are approaching or things have to be done. But because it's too much for us to actually put into action and we feel so overwhelmed, we start making excuses. So I'll give you an example. Perhaps I'm writing a research paper and it's on a new topic, and I have to go and do a lot more research on this topic than what I currently know. So I understand that there's going to be a lot of time spent on reading and researching. And perhaps at that point in time, my brain is just not functioning. So I procrastinate. I'd rather go on social media or I go and chill with friends or I'll go into the kitchen to cook something or to eat something. Then a few hours go past and I realize, oh no, it's been 3 hours and I haven't started with this task. So I start feeling guilty. Once I start feeling guilty and I see the time is going, I start panicking because I set this goal for myself at the beginning of the day. I know that there are deadlines to be met and I haven't touched my research. But then I make excuses and I say, oh, but I've just been so overwhelmed. There's been so many emails that have come in today. I've had a lot of admin to do. If you're a student, perhaps you were in class and you didn't have time to get to it, and the cycle continues. And so I found a very interesting video that I want to play for you on sort of changing your perception towards procrastination and finding a way to break through that pattern. And you'll see in the video she talks about procrastination being a habit. It's not a characteristic, it's not something you should associate yourself with. She says that we are not procrastinators. It's actually a habit that we form because of overthinking and feeling overwhelmed, especially under stressful circumstances. So I'm going to play the video for you.
You're not a procrastinator. You have a habit of procrastinating. Big difference.
I think you need to share the screen because we can't see anything.
Oh no, okay. Was my screen not sharing, Sister Dipti?
No, you need to share screen.
Okay, just exit that. Okay.
You're not a procrastinator. You have a habit of procrastinating. Big difference. Because it's a habit, I can teach you through science.
Can you increase the volume on it?
I will.
So let's talk a little bit about procrastination. Who struggles with procrastination? And the rest of you that are ready with me with procrastinating. You see, I always thought procrastination had to do with the thing I was procrastinating around, right? Like procrastination is something like work. Believe it or not, procrastination has nothing to do with your work. Procrastination is a form of stress relief. Let me explain this. So stuff going on in your life. Who doesn't have stuff going on in your life? Maybe you're fighting with your significant other. Maybe mom's or dad's health is failing, and it's really, really upsetting you. Maybe you've got some financial stuff, you put too much of your savings into Bitcoin, and now that that's crashed, you're stressed out about it, right? And so you go into work, and when you get into work, you got stuff to do, you kind of wrap in, and you got this big stress ball that subconsciously is hanging over your head. So you wrap in, and you sit down, and you know you got 13 phone calls you need to make. And you also know that you've been checking it out, you've been making easy calls, and there's a bunch of CIOs or other people that are making number that you haven't been called. And so as you sit down to do it, you got the stress on your shoulders, your brain that starts to go, oh, you want me to make a call to somebody that I'm scared to make? Absolutely not. I'm so stressed out about it. Can you just watch your cat videos for a minute?
Sorry, Simone, it's not very
Not
clear.
clear.
Yeah, it's not clear at all. Sorry.
Okay, I think I will share the link after this. I'll post it in the chat. But what she's basically saying is that to break the habit of procrastination is just to start. And she has come up with this 5-minute technique where if you have a task that you need to achieve and you've been procrastinating it, make a list of probably the easiest way or the easiest things that you can do to accomplish that task. So, and once you've made that list, you can rank and prioritize what's going to be the easiest for you, because once you find the easiest way to complete the task, you're more likely to begin that task. And so she says, once you've got that down, then spend just 5 minutes doing that task, whatever it is. And you'll see that as you implement this daily practice and you spend 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, eventually you will be getting into it more and you can spend more time on it. And I've tried this technique and it works. I think once you get into the task that you've been procrastinating, you realize that it's actually not that bad. And your mind has made this big mountain out of a molehill. So I find this technique quite interesting. And she's got many other videos on procrastination, which I think will be helpful. But I will share that after the session. So let me just get back to the actual slide. Okay, so in terms of managing stress, I find that it comes with acceptance. And the acceptance is understanding and accepting that this is where I am right now. I don't need to worry about where I want to be. That is going to fall into place for me. And that takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of humility. And it takes a lot of acceptance and understanding. And the past 2 years are undergoing a lot of turmoil and stress, which I think we've all been through. This has been a quote that has resonated with me. You are exactly where you need to be. And that centers you and brings you back to accepting that this is where you are. There's no need to force yourself to be anywhere else but where you are. And it comes with having faith as well, having faith that the universe is going to work with you. The universe is never going to work against you. It's your perception that determines how you approach situations, and it's your perception that tells you everything is going wrong, I can't meet the deadlines, my computer crashed. But ultimately, if you look back and think of the challenges and obstacles you faced in your life, as difficult as they might have been, there was some benefit that came out of it. And that was something you had to learn, probably in a challenging, difficult way. But at that point in time, you were exactly where you needed to be. So I think towards the end, Sister Dipti can come in here and add some insight, but I'm just mindful of the time and I want to get to the practical stuff. So I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with the serenity prayer, but it's also something that helps with acceptance. And just giving in and having faith and allowing the universe to work for you will help you to release some of that stress, release that anxiety, release the worry, and help you on this path to managing your stress. So the quote says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. And it's quite a popular quote, quite a popular prayer, and it does definitely bring you back. It grounds you and allows you to let go. So, some of the spiritual tactics that I've implemented and that I think are quite useful to combating stress. So it's not limited to this, of course, and you might find that you resonate with one more than the other. But the first is to develop a sense of purpose beyond work and studying. Well, we see this at universities a lot, that students just want to get their marks to pass. They get their qualification, and then what? They're not looking at the bigger picture. And to do this, you need to kind of know who you are, where you are headed in life, have that type of passion within you that helps you bring the purpose to the forefront. And if you embed that purpose in your work, in your studying, it will be a lot more enlightening for you. It will be a lot more beneficial for you. You won't just look at it as a task. Second is relinquish control. So I think I've covered that quite sufficiently in just accepting. Third, enjoy the process, not the destination. I mentioned this as well. So look at the journey. Look at what the journey is teaching you. Don't just strive to get to a point and then move on to the next task. You have to learn that you are growing in the process and that things are happening to benefit you and help you grow. So enjoy that process. Increase meaningfulness. So ask yourself, why is this happening for me? And I mentioned this in a previous video, not why is this happening to me? Why is this happening for me? So if you look at it, if you just change that word, not to me, but for me, you realize that things are actually working with you, not against you. And if you come at the tasks and the difficulties of life with this mindset, you add more meaning to it, which also enhances the purpose that you get from participating in whatever activity. Increasing mindfulness, so being present again about the process, not the destination. Be present, focus on one task at a time. It also takes a lot to practice this, but it is a habit that you can instill. And just come back to yourself, come back to the task, come back to the purpose of why you're doing it instead of getting too overwhelmed with things. And then express feelings of gratitude. We are so fortunate to be in certain positions that we are in, to have a roof over our head, to have food on our table, to have a loving family. Whatever you think you take for granted on a daily basis, express feelings of gratitude. The vibration of gratitude is the same as the vibration of love. And so that feeling will entice and encourage you to experience more positive energy, more positive feelings. And that also reflects in your work, in your studies. Some daily practices, just close that. So, practical things: eat healthy, get enough sleep. There's no point in procrastinating until 2 days before the deadline, and then you don't sleep for 2 days and you try and get the project done. It's not going to be successful. You are not going to function optimally. Move and exercise. This is something we don't do enough of. Moving, exercising stimulates those endorphins and gets your body in a good mood. You release a lot of dopamine, you release a lot of oxytocin, and those things help you in creating the good mood. Take time out. So as much as we are under pressure, it's important, whether it's taking 20 minutes out at the end of the day for yourself or taking a Saturday off just to do your own thing. And this ties in with being kind to yourself. Be patient. You are only human. There's only so much you can achieve. You don't need to put those unrealistic expectations of yourself on yourself. So that's where you need to set your goals realistically. Eliminate distractions. And this is, I think, one of the biggest triggers for procrastination. Keep your phone away. If you need to keep your emails closed just for an hour so that you can work on the task at hand, do that. Tell yourself that you're not going to go to the kitchen until this task is done, because eating is also a distraction. So eliminate those distractions and start small. If you're constantly on your phone, then say for the next 10 minutes, I'm not going to look at my phone. then as the days go on, you might get to a point where you can not look at your phone for 3 hours at a time, and the next day would be 5 hours. So implement these things in small bits and pieces so that it's not a shock to your system and you don't get discouraged if things don't work. Take regular breaks. So identify how you study. Do you prefer to sit for 2 hours at a time, or do you need to sit for 30 minutes at a time and then take a break? But the breaks are important because you need that mental break for you to come back feeling a bit re energized and reinvigorated so that you can optimally achieve the task. You want to be productive, you want to be effective, you want to be efficient in your task. So you need to work smart, not hard. Find a hobby, something you enjoy. When we're doing something we love, we feel a lot of the positive energies, positive vibrations that can combat things like anxiety, depression, anger, frustration, all of those emotions that we spoke about earlier. So something that you really enjoy, that's it. It's not a task for you. If you do it, you can sit and do it for hours and you love it. That will send to you and bring you back to your purpose and why you are in the position that you are in. It also helps with gratitude. It also helps with enjoying the process. And spend time outside, being in nature. It's so healing. It's powerful. Listen to the birds. Just absorb the sunlight. We don't actually realize how important those things are and what it does for our body. So look at these techniques and see where and how you can implement them and what's going to work best for you. So I'm just trying to see if I can remove this. Okay. I said we need to make a commitment to ourselves. It's easy to talk about stress, easy to say, I've been procrastinating, but tomorrow I'm not going to procrastinate. And you find yourself procrastinating yet again. So I've got this little activity for all of us to do where we need to make a promise to ourselves. And you can write it down and stick it up next to your laptop or next to your books or in your car, in the bathroom, wherever. And just for a week, try and practice these things to help you alleviate some of that overwhelming feeling and the stress that comes with daily life. So in the chat, you're welcome to post it in the chat or you can write it down. Have a goal for yourself. So this week, my goal is to write 5 pages in my thesis. Or this week, I'm going to make study notes on 2 chapters of my textbook. So make it a very realistic goal, a goal that you can achieve, that is attainable for you, that is going to help you accomplish the bigger task at hand. Remember, we're just working in a week, so 7 days. Once you've got your goal, then you need to say, I will, and you mention one of the spiritual techniques. I will increase mindfulness. I will find purpose in what I'm doing. I will increase meaningfulness. So mention one spiritual technique by implementing 2 of the daily practices. So, for example, I will increase mindfulness by being more present and spending more time in nature. So just, it doesn't have to be strictly what we covered in the presentation, but practical things that you are now going to implement to help you make this commitment to yourself and maintain that commitment to yourself. And because it's a promise to yourself, I think including your name and saying it out aloud is very powerful because it brings this energy of implementation and you actually going to do this for yourself. So put in your name and you say, I, Simona, make this commitment to myself. Do this quickly, or you can do it after the presentation as well, and put it up where you can see it. And for the next 7 days, challenge yourself to keep committed to this promise. And I think you will experience some shifts. You will experience a lot less, anxiety, worry. You come into a more centered, more focused approach to tackling daily tasks. And, life goes on, things happen. drastic things happen, or we've got work, we've got studies, which we do on a daily basis, those things are not going to change. But the way we approach how we see these tasks and how we carry out these tasks is going to make a difference to how much of stress that we can actually, bust through, as what the title of the presentation is. And yeah, I think that's all from my side. Thank you all. Sister Dipti, I'm not sure if you want to come in just to discuss the stress and spirituality, and then maybe we can take one or two questions.
Thank you, Simona. I'm so much aware that all these techniques that you have shared has been a very practical part of your journey, and this has been really, really helpful. I was writing down myself this commitment as you just ended off now with. And I think on so many areas of our life, one is maybe in the studies, but in so many areas of growth, when I can take this threefold step of recognizing the goal, and then using the two spiritual practices, and then making a commitment by name towards it. Thank you so much. That has been really helpful. Thank you. And I think when we talk about the whole aspect of stress as well, I find for myself that absorption takes place when we're relaxed. And for myself, I find that if I take time and use a technique in my journey that relaxes me, like, for example, I love listening to music, but I also love dancing. I do Indian classical dancing, and I love that a lot. And I think it's about activating the peace, or it's activating the joy, because when these energies are activated within us, then there's a relaxed energy that comes. And any form of learning takes place from that. And we can absorb when we are relaxed. And so to just really check the self very, very practically, what can I do to activate a good flow of energy? Instead of saying I need to do something and I have to accomplish it, I find when you start being something, then the doing happens almost automatically. But when I'm trying to do without being, then it's hard work. So that's why when you shared the two spiritual practices, it brings you into a state of being. And so when you are being, then what you do becomes easier. So I think this is also very, very important within our journey, always to come back and just check what is it that allows there to be an energy flow. Because when there's stress, your energy gets blocked. And so you're just trying to move forward. And as you use the word procrastination, there's also an inertia that comes because it's always pulling you back. And so just what can I go back to? And I think you've highlighted some beautiful aspects in those practices. And as you shared a very powerful line, where am I right now? Not just where I want to be there, where am I right now? And where I am right now is so vital, because I find that even with our children, with parents, with areas where people are experiencing stress, it's like first I have to arrive at myself. Even if it takes a while, that's the work I have to do. Because only when I arrive at myself, then I can start doing what I have to do. And sometimes with the kids as parents, because the parent is so stressed, they bring out this vibration onto their child. Come, you're writing the exam tomorrow. You have to study, you have to study. So what you're doing is you're giving the child the vibration of panic. The child can't absorb within that. Maybe if you just sat and drank a nice cup of tea with the child and just been so present, and then say, okay, let me go do my work and you're welcome to study. Maybe the child in that, after that cup of tea together, or just you being present for 5 minutes, the child will be ready to do work at a level because they're so calm and relaxed. And so our vibrations definitely flow over onto our kids. And so again, that responsibility that we have, and that is what spirituality is. When we look at the whole energy of stress, to just really look at, what am I vibrating? And sometimes even in a home environment, when we talk about spirituality and stress, I find, just create, maybe you can't help your child do what he or she wants to do, but you can create an atmosphere, just a calm, relaxed atmosphere where there's an energy that is so open. And when an energy is open, the child can open up to concentrate and relax. The very beautiful aspects that you brought up, Simona. And I think as we just deepen these practices together, we can achieve so much more. So yes, let's open it up to, there's many close friends of ours tonight. And I'm sure that some are parents and some are grandparents, I see here, that are very keen for their children and for themselves, I suppose. So please feel free if anyone has any questions to ask.
Good evening, sister. It's great to see you this evening. Thank you.
Lovely. Any
Morning, Shanti.
Hello, Andre. Yes.
I send Sakash to you all here tonight.
That means you're sharing good spiritual current. Yeah.
There's a picture that I came across on the internet the other day.
You are soft, Andre.
I came across on the internet the other day that's so lovely, helped me with processing how stress can become the experience of calm and peace. I want to share it with you, but the host has disabled all of our participant sharing. So I've sent it to Dipti-Ben via WhatsApp, and maybe she can share her screen on there. But it's the picture of a mind with knowledge. Lots of knowledge, and the pieces of the puzzle in the mind are knowledge. And then there's a picture of a mind where the pieces of the puzzle in the mind are fitting together. And they call that experience. And my son is studying at the moment, first year, and wrote his first exam on Tuesday. And the exam was actuarial science. Quite a tough exam. Quite a tough exam, I must say. And I didn't study actuarial science, so I can't claim to help him. But I got a fellow here by the name of Clint to help him. And Clint did this work of taking the pieces of the knowledge that were in Jared's mind and helping him put them together. And as this process happened, I watched how Jared started putting the pieces together and said, why didn't they teach me that at university? My lecturer didn't say that. I heard lots of comments from Jared stating that the pieces of the puzzle in his head were not aligned. It's interesting. because what Clint did was help Jared put it together. What I then did was I asked Jared to tell me, with those pieces of the puzzle in his head now puzzled together, to tell me how he's feeling. He said, I feel a lot better. I feel so relaxed. I can't understand why it took such a long time at university for them to put the pieces of the puzzle together in my head when I was doing classes. I'm going to turn on my video, my camera now. I've got my wooden hat on, etc. And I said to Jared, now let's spend time just being calm. And I played him a song. I played him a song from his favorite album in the music by Sodom Kaur. I don't know if I've pronounced that correctly, and Peter Kader. And the song is Just to Know You. And in that just to know you moment, when I took him to know the Father, when I took him to know the highest being, I found him not stressed. He aced the actuarial science exam. It's quite interesting how when the pieces of the knowledge come together and you then take a relaxation, a deep breath and draw from the Father, how my son's actuarial science journey became unstressed. I thought I'd share that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I will definitely share what you've sent. I can't do it right now, but it's a very powerful image. Thank you so much, Andre. Any other questions? I see other individuals I know that are connected to their children's studies, and feel free to ask any questions that you may have. Prabhashni?
So I was thinking about what Simone was saying, you know, all these points. And before I started, I was like very nervous because, you know, all the things that I'm studying. And I like what you said, where accept and also change the perspective of it, right? So one of the things I'm studying is economics. And I think I took a negative perspective of it, you know, because of what is happening and things like that. So I think I need to change my perspective in terms of, you know, finding how it's more relatable to me. So that's where I think in terms of my studying, to just, I may not know the answers to it, you know, but try and make it more relatable to myself. And yeah, because I've been also procrastinating about it and things like, yeah. So I think I'll take that point about making it more changing my perspective on these things and incorporating it into my life, and yeah, and making peace with the economics. Thanks.
Yeah. You want to respond to anything, Simona?
Yeah, thank you for that, Prabhashni, and for sharing. I think, you know, when we're in the studying mindset, we're just looking at, you know, what's happening here in the books, the research you have to do, but you forget that there's actually a bigger, broader picture. And that's where your purpose would come in. And just adopting that mindset, you'd find that you're a little bit more excited, more interested in studying, and whatever's happening in terms of economics is external. We cannot control that. And that is where I think for you, the acceptance is going to become quite key. So as bleak and, you know, not so good that the economy looks at the moment, you are studying this for a reason, and you chose to study this for a reason. You're on the path for a reason. And so by just changing that mindset, like you say, I think that you'll go far. And procrastination, it's a habit, so it's going to come up, you know, but it's just how you manage it and how you break free of that habit every time it comes to mind. So yeah, good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any last questions? Any last thoughts, any comments? Feel
I have
free.
one more. I have one more.
Okay.
I know Simone is doing her doctorate, right? So what would you say is some of the best study techniques?
Um, okay, well, it depends, right? Because in different disciplines, the way you attempt or write up your thesis would be different. The way you do research is different. And I must say, work life and study balance is not easy. But when it comes to something like a doctorate, you have to take that time out. You have to sit, you have to eliminate the distractions because you can't sit with it and an email pops up and you respond to that. You have to make the time and you receive a lot of critique, right? So if you have supervisors or people that are mentoring you, guiding you, you are going to receive a lot of critique. And you can take it very personally. There's varying degrees of how people adopt that criticism. And so for me, as part of one of the study techniques, as much as I know that they are critiquing my work for my best interest, it does take a toll on you emotionally and mentally. So I take a day out for myself, whether I soak in a bath or I color or I bake or I cook. I know it's not actually a study technique, but I think we neglect that. As you get into your studies further into postgrad, you're so inundated that you forget yourself. So taking that time out for yourself, like Sister Dipti was saying, it helps you become more productive and more focused. Because when you're under stress, you can't perform efficiently, you can't perform effectively, you struggle to be productive. So just take it in blocks, set out a week for yourself where you're going to study, you're going to put in the work, and then take 2 days off just to reinvigorate yourself and bring yourself back. Um, and yeah, it's a personal journey for everyone. So we can perhaps take it offline if you'd like, and I can advise you further. We can talk about it a bit more.
Thank you. I
Wonderful.
think I will take you up on that offer.
Thank you. Okay, so the time has just gone by, and before somebody gets stressed about being that we've gone over time, let's not invite that kind of space. So thank you, Simona. I really know that you have a busy timetable, and I know you probably even had a long day today, but you've always availed yourself to offer. And I think one of the things I've really respected and appreciated about Simona's journey is that she gives very honest time on certain practices for inner growth. And I think I've watched her previously too on different aspects. And so I think today, whatever's been shared has been also a journey where she has worked with it very practically in her own life. So thank you, Simona, just
Thank
to
you for
be
having
able to
us.
offer and share that. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm sure that we've embraced these moments. Let us just take a few moments now and come back to the self and just become present in this moment. And as we go within, just become aware that there's a beautiful and powerful you beyond all the demands and distractions of life. There's a beautiful and powerful you, which holds so many qualities. There are so many inner resources within one's being. So in this moment now, let us go on that inner journey and step once again into that space of stillness. As I center myself and become aware of the variety of energies that life may present to me, I stay anchored to myself. I stay anchored to peace. I stay anchored to my inner power and allow my being to be still and silent. It is in the still and silent journey that I give birth to the most precious moments of life. I give birth to my creativity, give birth to my clarity. I give birth to my purpose. So I stay centered in the stillness of my being. I connect with you, O Divine Source, the one who's ever peaceful, ever loving, ever wise. In the silent moment, I absorb your love and your light and allow my inner being to stay powerful, peaceful, and anchored. I hold this moment in stillness, in love, in new beginnings. I stay with you, O Divine Being. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you, Simona. Thank you for our host and behind the scene tech team. Thank you very much. Have a good evening and good night.